By now, we unfortunately all know that Joann is closing all around 800 of their stores nationwide, as opposed to just the 500 or so that were originally on the chopping block. This news came this week, mid to late February, and I know many of us are thinking of what are we going to go to now that we don't have our local Joann stores. You want to continue to pursue your hobby, you want to grow your business, you need fabrics, you need notions, you need patterns, etc. Where will you get them now if Joann was your primary choice for picking up those kind of things? And I have answers for you in this video. But first, hi, I'm Tiffany of Tip Stitch, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where we discuss all things sewing and DIY. All right, first up, I want to give a disclaimer. I am going to list many store options here. Now, some of you will feel that some of these stores are problematic. They may be on a list of places you are currently boycotting, and that is fine. I personally will not be shopping from all the places I mentioned in this video, but I'm trying to stay out of politics as much as I can, even though as a Black woman in America, politics is of course ingrained in every single part of my life. Of this video, I'm going to keep my personal thoughts to myself because some people don't have choices, if they may be more limited in their options, and some people don't feel as strongly about certain issues as I do. And for the sake of this video, we're going to agree to disagree. That ain't applied to all things, but for the sake of this video, we're going to agree to disagree. So with that being said, I understand that not all of these options will be options for each and every one of you, but I am giving you a complete list and then allowing you to choose where to spend your hard-earned money. Unquestionably, the biggest concern for most sewers with Joann's closing is where will they now get their fabric? Many of us love going to Joann because you can touch and feel the fabric, you can order it, you can get fractions of a yard right there in the store. Amazing. Now that they're going to be gone, where can you go? Obviously, their direct competitor, Hobby Lobby, and Michaels. To my understanding, some Michaels do have fabric in store as they bought out Hancock fabric many years ago. Anywho, they definitely offer the fabric online, and I'm understanding that some stores actually carry fabric, so look into that. Now, you can also consider big box stores like Walmart. Many Walmarts do have fabric sold by the yard in the store. Not all, obviously. Here in the Atlanta metro area, it's sort of hit or miss, but it's worth going into your local Walmart and just seeing if they have an actual fabric section with like a cutting table. Good luck finding somebody to cut that fabric, but if you can, great. I know that those stores often also sell remnants at really low, great prices. The quality may vary, but the prices are so cheap that it's typically worth the risk, because even if you use it as a muslin, you're still pretty much coming out ahead. And if your Walmart doesn't have the actual cutting section with the fabric, many of them still carry pre-cut fabric in their craft, arts, and supply section. This may be limited to cottons and satin and tulle. I think I've even seen velvet at one. It's going to be basic options, mostly solids, but that can be somewhere where you can get something in a pinch, possibly. They also have fat quarters and things like that as well, so that's a good option. Now, you may think that locally you don't have any fabric options, and that may be true depending on where you live, but it's worth it to give it a second shot. A quick Google search can just make sure that maybe not a place popped up that you didn't know about. It's possible. Think about your local quilting stores, which I typically wouldn't consider as an apparel sewist, but they will oftentimes have high quality cottons, and that can be a consideration. Also look into your sewing dealers as well as your sewing machine repair shops. Those kind of places may have a small collection of fabric as well that you can go and actually touch. It's probably not really going to be apparel fabric, but it may give you something. You can also think outside of the box and make clothes from things that aren't by the yard fabric. Things like bed sheets, blankets, curtains. I've even seen somebody make a jacket out of a shower curtain. So you can think outside the box. Basically, any continuous large piece of fabric can be used to make apparel or accessories. I know that I have made a really cute summer dress out of sheets that I bought from IKEA. Think of your home goods stores, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Target, those kind of places. Look for the clearance items. Some things have a good scale of print that you could use for apparel that doesn't just have to be for the intended purpose. You can also look into thrifting some of those same kind of items from your local thrift stores like Goodwill or estate sales or vintage stores. Those kind of places will often have vintage sheets and things like that that you can reuse. And if you're into upcycling, that's also a great way to find things that you can upcycle. Though that's not my cup of tea, it's definitely something to consider. Now, I know many of you hate this, but you could also buy fabric online, and I get it, it's not the same. But I do have a whole video on buying fabric online. I list my top 5 favorite online retailers, and I give you a couple of tips of how not to be disappointed in buying your fabric online. So if you want to, go check that out as well. Also, you can combine the last two of vintage or thrifting and online, and you can do that using the Lucky Sweater app. The Lucky Sweater app is a great app that was created to be a place for creatives to barter their items. It's not only fabric, it's also notions and patterns and things of that nature, but basically you list up what's in your stash that you no longer want to use. Somebody else does the same. You like their thing, they like your thing, and you ship it to each other. So the only out-of-pocket cost for you is for the shipping. So it ends up being a really great way to save money and be sustainable and get your stash down, so make room to get more stuff. All right, now let's move on to notions, which is something that you definitely need to make any sewing project. And of course, if you have a Joann nearby, it is easy to go in there and grab a zipper, grab some thread, grab some bobbins, and be on your way. But there are other options. Obviously, you can go with the other crafting stores, so think Hobby Lobby, think Michael's. You can also do big box stores like Walmart. They're going to have sewing machine needles, yardsticks, thread holders, Velcro, zippers, bias tape, almost anything you need actually you can find at Walmart. You can also look somewhere like a dollar store. Now the quality may not be the same there, but you can find hand needles. You can often find tape measures and seam rippers and awl. Things like that you can typically find at a store, and at least it's only $1.25. You can also shop online, and that is a little bit simpler because notions aren't something that you typically need to touch and feel. So one of the highly recommended places is Waywack or Wawack. I'm not really sure how you say it. I'll link to it in the description though. And there you can buy basically the same thing that you would get at Joann's, same quality thing, Gutermann threads, YKK zippers, those kind of things from them at decent prices, comparative, if not cheaper than Joann, as a matter of fact. They do offer quick shipping, so I hear, and you can get almost anything you need from Waywack. Also consider Madame Sew. I know I have purchased a few things from there. They have quite a few notions, accessories, other sewing supplies that you can get from there also at very competitive rates. You can also shop at Amazon. They will have those kind of things online. Typically the same things that you would get in Joann. Again, you'll be able to find like clover chalk rollers and seam rippers and tape measures and things of that nation. And they will be shipped to you in just 2 days. Also think outside the box. There's so many things that we think of in the sewing community strictly for sewing that actually can have other purposes in other industries and spaces of home improvement stores. What I use for pattern weights most of the time are these washers that I did cover in ribbon, so they look a little bit prettier, but they're just heavy washers from like the plumbing or whatever section of Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace. You can also find things there like tape measures, yardsticks, several things you could probably get there that you could use in the sewing world. These clips that many of us prefer to pins are actually something that you can often find in like an office supply store because basically they're just clips. I've also seen the bendy clips be used, especially in the quilting, and those are just like the same things that you use for the hair, the same clips. And this is actually a pin holder that I use to store my pin with the magnets, but this was actually sold as a bobby pin holder. The magnet doesn't care if it's a bobby pin or pins, it's still gonna work. Got this from Walmart. So think outside the box of where items that you typically would buy from Joann might be used in a different industry, and you can get it from there. And oftentimes when things aren't marketed to a certain brand, they can actually be cheaper, so you might even save some money. Another place I want to make sure I mention is an art supply store. Some place like that may have erasable markers, pens, and pencils. You also may find tracing paper. They're going to have straight rulers, T-squares if you're into pattern drafting. They may also have curve rulers. So there are a lot of things that you can get from other places. Let's talk about patterns. And patterns is probably the most fun category to me because you have more options than you used to here. Now, if you are a person who was sad about your pattern sales at Joann, you're not not going to be alone, because I am definitely going to miss $1.99 pattern sales for the commercial patterns. Now, they had been moving up to like $2.99, which seemed high, of course, again, to only us US people. But some of us remember when they used to be 99 cents like once or twice a year. So $2.99 was like a jump. But regardless, apparently those days are going to be over. And now if you want to buy the big 5 commercial patterns, I would say obviously just go to simplicity.com. Now, back in the day, they didn't really give you much incentive. I feel like the discounts were only like 30%, and that was what they were every day at your Joann store. So there was really no reason to order it, wait, and pay for shipping. It was just too much. But now that we're not going to have access to the sales, it might be something we have to consider. And they've done much better. I don't know if they knew this was coming down the pipeline or not, but they've done much better about having sales on their website. So oftentimes you'll find the patterns, I think I've seen them as low as $3.99 for like the Berta patterns and like out of stock, or discontinued patterns. But typically I feel like there's $3.99, $4.99 for most patterns, except for Vogue, which will often be $7.99, I think. They also don't put the DVF patterns on sale. That's always like an exclusion. That being said, simplicity.com is your best way to go. They not only have the paper patterns that they will ship you, if it's something that you really hurriedly want to sew, for many, especially of the newer patterns, they have the print at home option. And on even the newer ones, they've started offering the AO option. So the big sheets, if you don't want to deal with all the tiling and taping of the pages together, you can order the AO and send it to your local print shop and get it plotted out that way. So they're giving you more and more options on their website, which is good. There's not much you can do to avoid the shipping, but just watch their sales and see if they ever offer free shipping. And I think as a general rule, if you spend $75, you get free shipping. So maybe the thing to do is just to like keep adding patterns to your basket, because you can log into your account and do that. And then once you hit that like $75 threshold, you can press buy, and then at least you can get free shipping there. Especially if you bundle that with a sale, that's probably the best way to get the best price. It just depends on how badly and how soon you need the pattern. I know that often when new patterns drop, I just want to go ahead and grab them, but realistically, I might not sell them for weeks, if not months. So just letting them sit out in my basket wouldn't be a terrible thing. You may or may not sew independent patterns. Now, if independent patterns are new to you because you've typically sewn commercial patterns, this would be a good time to try some of them out. Independent patterns can come in paper, so you can order them from their website and they will actually ship a paper pattern to you. But almost all of them offer PDF patterns. Now, some of them exclusively offer PDF patterns, so you can't get a paper pattern mailed to you. And with that, you can either print them at home, you can print them on the large paper at your local print shop, and many of them have started offering projector files as well if you use projectors for cutting out your sewing pattern. So there are different options there depending upon your preferred method. So that's definitely something to consider. Many people actually offer free PDF patterns. So you have Mood Fabrics, you have Unfettered Patterns. The fabric store often has free patterns. So there are places where you can try out this method and decide if you like it or not. Just know that it's true in the indie world that not all pattern companies are created equal. Some may do something that you don't like, and the others may do something they don't offer the same printing methods and things like that. So you do want to look into it a little bit. But often the independent pattern makers have a couple of free patterns on their website. You may have to join their Facebook group or sign up for their newsletter, but you'll get access to a free pattern and you can try that out to see, like that particular maker. I know many people find independent patterns easier to follow as they often have more thorough instructions, or maybe not thorough, they're just more common language instruction. They're not always using the true sewing terms that you would find in the commercial patterns, right? So they're sometimes more accessible to new sewers. They do also oftentimes, maybe not often, they do sometimes have larger sizing ranges, which may also appeal to you. And many of them offer video sew-alongs, which is great, whether you're new to sewing or not, to be able to sew along with the person who designed the pattern. So independent patterns are definitely something worth looking into. And if you want to learn more about your options there, head on over over to my blog, tipstitch.com, and look under the directories tab, I not only have an independent pattern directory where I give certain tags like PDF, paper, the size inclusion, that kind of things. You can search through that. I also have a page dedicated to just free patterns. So be sure to check both of those out to think about jumping into independent patterns if you want to maybe move away or just add to your commercial pattern collection. Also, obviously, you can thrift your patterns. You can find commercial and independent patterns at places like Facebook Marketplace, in your thrift stores, at your Goodwill, at secondhand stores. You may have a local sewing club that does swaps. I know the Atlanta Sewing Guild does an annual thing where they have people donate patterns and fabric where you can pick those up, give yours in, same kind of thing, very sustainable, helps everybody out. If that's not one in your area, it may be something you consider adding. Lucky Sweater is a great online option for sourcing fabric sustainably because everybody on that site is a creator or a maker, and they offer up items that they no longer want, and you can swap with another person, as well as you can just simply donate it and gift it to another person. So I would definitely recommend joining Lucky Sweater by downloading their app and creating an account. You can go to websites like Etsy. You can look at something like eBay. There are many places to get, especially out of print patterns, vintage patterns, retro patterns that you may want to sew. So that could be another great place to pick up your sewing patterns. If you follow many other sewists, I know we often destash on our stories, right? On our own personal blog sites, Shop Our Stash. So there's many places where you can find patterns that are brand new or slightly used. Lastly, I'm gonna add on sewing machines. There was someone in Joann when I went this past weekend before the announcement came out that all the stores would be closing, who was purchasing a new sewing machine because their old one had broke and they had something they needed to fix for a friend. They needed to get it done really soon, right? So they just came out and bought a new one, and they were like, well, where will I get a new machine in the future? The best place to get a machine is probably directly from the brand maker, and that oftentimes requires going to a sewing machine dealer because that is typically how they sell their products. So if you want a Bernina, find a Bernina retailer. If you want a Baby Lock, find a Baby Lock retailer. You can do that. You could also buy Singers and Brothers and things like that directly from Walmart. You can also buy those things from places online like Amazon. I think there's a sewingmachine.com. You can look into other options. Now there you don't get to test them, but you typically didn't get to test them at Joann anyway. So if you're looking for a new machine, do that. But another great thing to do is to thrift a machine. That comes with its own concerns. Of course, I'll probably do another video about this later, but you can go to Goodwill. You can go to secondhand stores. You can go to estate sales. You can ask a friend or family member if they have an old machine they no longer use. So there are still going to be plenty of ways for you to get a sewing machine if you are new to sewing or just want a new one. Hopefully there was something useful that you could take away from this video. If so, please give this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. If there's a store or website that I did not mention that you think would be useful to other sewers, please go ahead and mention that or link to it in your comment. I'm sure that everyone will be appreciative of us sharing this information. We all want to be able to continue to pursue our love for sewing. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and happy sewing.